Hey everyone, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the 2020 Toyota Highlander Hybrid Platinum. This is a top dog Highlander, Toyota's 3-row crossover. This is going to be a sound system demo of their 11-speaker JBL audio system. Comes standard on the Platinum model, and it's an upgrade on some other trims, I do believe. And this is, as I said, an 11-speaker, 1200-watt system from JBL, who is a partner company with Harman. So it's going to be a full review. We're going to take a look at the infotainment system, the sound system, listen to some sample tracks while we're stopped, head out on the road, listen to those same tracks, and give you my impressions at the end. So as always, we start these sound system reviews with all of the sound settings set to their factory defaults, and I'll tell you why that's so important. When I got this car dropped off a few days ago, I was driving around throughout this week, listening to music, and I was kind of surprised that the JBL system didn't really sound very good. Generally, Toyota does a good job with their sound systems. I just got out of a Honda, and Hondas don't typically do well with their sound systems, so I was excited to get into this, listen to some good music. And it just wasn't sounding very good. I was like, this is weird. It just didn't have a very broad range, their power wasn't there. And I went into the treble, mid, and bass settings, and they were centered out. I messed with those a little bit. Didn't even think to check the fader and balance. But sure enough, when I went to start this test, and I was starting today and wanted to make sure everything was zeroed, I clicked on here, and this was set over like that. And just that little bit of side adjustment threw off the system so dramatically that when I put it back to the center and kind of reevaluated, listened to an assortment of songs, everything sounded much better. So we always start as the designers intended. In terms of inputs on the Highlander, you're not looking at anything too crazy. You've got your standard AM, FM, Sirius XM radio, then you've got a USB port here, Bluetooth, and that's it. So what are you missing? You're missing a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary input jack and a CD or DVD player. Not too common to see those left out of newer vehicles, but it is what it is. For audio adjustments, you've got a volume knob here with no detents, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine. If you don't know what I mean, we turn the music down. You hear on this button, it's got little bumps as you turn it. This one, nothing. Completely smooth. So that's pretty personal. You also got volume adjustment on the steering wheel here, track adjustment on the steering wheel, track adjustment on the touchscreen, and track adjustment from this wheel. All right, let's hop out, take a quick look at the vehicle, and count some speakers. So as I said, this is Toyota's mid-size-ish, larger mid-size crossover. It slots above the RAV4 and below the Sequoia. This is a hybrid version as well, getting excellent gas mileage. If you'd like to see a full review of the car, we'll have the link to that in the description once it's up. So in terms of speaker counts, like I said, this car does have 11, and that's including a subwoofer, just hiding right here. Then you've also got a speaker. You've actually got 2 speakers right here in the back of the liftgate, so that's kind of cool for those third-row passengers. So that's 1, 2, 3. Ooh, pretty windy out today. And in the back, you've got 4, 5. You should have. There should be 2 more back here somewhere. 4, 5. Let me think. Oh no, I guess the rest are up here. 4, 5 in the middle row. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And the reason I know exactly where all those are is because Toyota and JBL have teamed up to make this really cool website. It's just jbl.com/Toyota, and it shows you every single Toyota vehicle and the specs on their sound systems. So it kind of explains what the system's got, and then here quick specs: 11 speakers, 1200 watts, 12 channels, and an amplifier. And then if you zoom in here, shows you, it's a little faint, that's probably something with the mobile site, but you can see exactly where each speaker is and what kind they are, and a little bit other kind of branding information. So that's really cool. I appreciate they do that. All right, let's listen to a few tracks here and get on the road. I should say these are uncompressed WAV audio files plugged directly into the system with a USB stick, giving you the highest quality audio experience possible. I also have 2 high-quality binaural microphones in both of my ears, making the experience pretty much as realistic as you can get on YouTube. Let's actually switch over. I want to do this track. Now, this track's really going to allow you to hear some strong basses, as well as good floating mid-range techno-y kind of sounds. And some high end is in there. Not only is there a really strong bass coming from the bottom there in those low notes, there's also a strong mid-range bass, which I really appreciate. All right, let's get on the road. So now they're up to speed on highway. Let's turn the music down, give you an idea of how the car sounds at speed. So here is 70 miles per hour. it's quite isolated. We're not talking luxury car Lexus GX levels of isolation, but very little wind noise, minimal engine noise, and minimal road noise as well. All better to hear your music. Now this song, if you've seen our channel before, you know it can really bring some systems to their knees. So let's see how the Highlander handles it. This song brings up an interesting part of the Toyota Highlander's JBL system. It does a really good job at pulling out both the low bass hits and the mid bass range hits and just providing a powerful, strong music listening experience. Where it kind of falls off is the complex mid-range sounds and then getting up into their crisp high-range things. The system isn't quite as crisp as I would hope for in kind of a premium system like this. Especially with these tweeters up here, I was expecting just a little bit more crispness. It kind of sounds like there's a bit of a high pass on this audio, so like a little bit of the highest end stuff is clipped off. And I think this song just shows it pretty well that when trying to put through all these instruments, it does quite a good job. I mean, we're talking like B+, A- type of material here. So given that this isn't a luxury vehicle, it's only like $53,000 in comparison with some of the really expensive systems we test, it's doing quite a good job. But there's just that little bit that I would have hoped for more. Not saying I was expecting it, but if it were to improve, that's where it would need to improve. We should be able to notice a little bit of that as well in this song. And you're going to notice a little bit more muddiness in the mid to mid-high range when you're driving along because of road noise that's coming in and wind noise is just muddling up the other sounds. I love when that bass guitar comes in. That sounds really, really good. This song is a little bit less complex than that rock song we listened to. And everything's coming through pretty well. There's kind of a spot for each instrument. I'm actually having to remove the microphones a bit just to make sure I'm getting a proper sound experience again. There's one more song I want to sample before we wrap things up, and I want to go back to this now that we're moving. See, a crappy system at this volume on the highway, those sounds would hurt my ears. It's not the case in this. This track tends to get pretty busy I hear at the drop, so that'll give me a really good example of how well it can parse out sounds. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like I said, I absolutely love the way the bass is coming through. That's like a 9.5 for me. The upper ends are a little bit more of an 8.5. So if I were giving a number rating to the JBL system here in the Highlander, I'd probably... I know it would sound like I would go to 9 after what I just said. That's a little high. All things considered, objectively across all new vehicles, I'm putting this at about a 7.5, and I'll tell you why. In terms of strictly sound quality, we're looking at probably an 8, maybe even an 8.5, depending on what kind of music. But the infotainment system is mildly frustrating, maybe even moderately frustrating, and for that, the rating comes down just a little bit. What I mean is, the graphics aren't very good, there's a little bit of a delay, the way this is all laid out, it's not very clear where a lot of the buttons are, and sure, after a while you would get used to it, but like, there's not very many physical buttons, just about everything is done in the touchscreen. It's not the worst system, it's not as convoluted as like the Mercedes-Benz system, but it's not as straightforward as something from Chrysler, or who does another really straightforward one? Hyundai Kia's systems are really easy to use. So it definitely gets knocked out a little bit. And there's just some weird quirks, like you saw I just had this screen open. Like right now, what if I just want the audio screen to stay open? I'm cycling through tracks or something like that. If I just kind of sit here for a little while, this screen is gonna go away, and I'm like, hey, what if I still wanted that open? I know they're minor, but I've been driving this car around for a few days now, a few hundred miles, playing with the system, and I'm just telling you that it's not as intuitive or easy to use as competitors. Subjectively, within kind of the mid to large crossovers in the Highlander segment, I think it's pretty fair to put an 8 on this system. It does a pretty good job compared to a lot of its competitors. It might not be the best, but the sound quality is really, really good. That subwoofer is awesome. If it just had a little bit more crispness, honestly, if I were listening to it, I might just hit treble up 1, maybe down on the mid-range 1, and then that's all I would need to do. So hope you guys were able to get a good example of the JBL system here in the Toyota Highlander. If you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button. Check out some of our other sound tests. Check out the full review on the Highlander here coming soon. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.